The world is loud. It calls to you in 1,000 voices. Some promise pleasure, others whisper fear. Many pretend to be truth, and you run. You chase. You hide. You distract yourself. You build layers around the wound you never dare to face. But peace, true peace, cannot be chased. It does not live in your possessions, your status, or the validation of others. It does not come when the noise quiets. It appears when you stop fueling the noise within. Most people never find inner peace, not because it is hidden, but because they are looking in the wrong direction. You were told, become someone, achieve more, be admired. But the Buddha said, let go. The mind that clings will suffer. The mind that resists will burn. The heart that fears impermanence will break again and again, and the person who avoids themselves will never truly rest. Do you want peace? Then look at how you suffer. Do not turn away from it. Do not drown it in distractions. Do not numb it with comfort. Look, because to see suffering clearly, that is the beginning of awakening. The Buddha did not promise a life without pain. He promised freedom from the grasping that turns pain into endless suffering. He did not ask you to believe blindly. He invited you to see for yourself, to observe, to question, to be still. So ask yourself, what thoughts are you feeding? What fears are you obeying? What version of yourself are you clinging to? Until you see these clearly, peace will elude you. Peace is not a state you earn. It is your nature, buried beneath the noise. But to return to that nature, you must walk backwards through your illusion. You must question the mind that says, I will be happy when. The when is a ghost. The if only is a prison. And the not enough, that is the voice of delusion. The Buddha called this craving, tanha, thirst, and it is unquenchable. As long as you run toward something, hoping it will complete you, you run away from yourself. And every step away from the self is a step away from peace. So stop, not in defeat, but in presence, not in apathy, but in awareness. Stop long enough to feel your breath, to watch your thought, to see the storm and not be swept into it. This is where freedom begins, not by changing the world, but by ceasing to let the world control you. The greatest revolution is stillness. The most courageous act is to sit with what is. You say, but I must fix myself first. The Buddha says, there is no self to fix. There is only awareness, and awareness is not something you create. It is something you return to. Your suffering comes from resistance, from imagining that life should be other than it is, from believing that your thoughts are fact, from fearing emotions as if they are enemies. But thoughts are clouds. Emotions are waves. Let them pass. Let them rise and fall. You are not the clouds. You are the sky. You are not the waves. You are the ocean. When you believe every thought, you become a prisoner. When you fear every feeling, you become a refugee within yourself. But when you observe both with equanimity, you become free. The Buddha's path is not about escape. It is about seeing clearly. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, eightfold. Not as commandments, but as invitations. Each step a reminder. Peace is practiced. Peace is cultivated. Peace is lived. No guru can hand it to you. No possession can buy it. No escape can sustain it. It is found in the ordinary moment, walked with awareness, breathed with patience, lived with compassion. So look at your day. What are you rushing toward? What are you avoiding? Where are you giving away your power? To return to peace is to return to yourself, but not the self you perform, not the identity you defend. The self beneath thought, beneath emotion, beneath story. This silence, this stillness, it is not empty. It is full of knowing. You were never broken. You were only distracted. And the invitation is always here. Sit, breathe. So many spend their lives collecting moments, achievements and symbols, but never arrive anywhere. They chase the idea of arrival, the fantasy of once I have this, then I'll rest, then I'll breathe. But the Buddha taught, there is no arrival, there is only awareness. There is only now. And yet the now is the one place we never truly dwell. We stand in this moment, yet our minds pull us toward the next, or bind us to the past. This is why we suffer, not because of the moment itself, but because we are absent from it. Absence breeds restlessness. Restlessness breeds craving, and craving breeds suffering. If you look deeply, you'll see the root of all unrest is the refusal to be where you are. But where else can peace exist? Not in the future, not in what could have been, only here. To be fully here is not weakness. It is the deepest strength, to sit with what arises, not to fix, not to fight, not to flee, but to simply be. This is the power that transforms. But we resist this simplicity. We are conditioned to believe that meaning comes from movement, that stillness is failure, that silence means something is missing. But in truth, stillness is where meaning reveals itself. Silence is where wisdom begins to speak. So pause, feel the breath as it enters, as it leaves. This rhythm is not separate from peace. It is peace. You do not need to force it. You need only to stop resisting what already is. This is why discipline matters, not as control but as return. Discipline is the reminder, again and again, that you are not your impulses. You are not your distractions. You are the one who sees them. Every time you return to the breath, you return to reality. Every time you return to mindfulness, you return to the truth. This is the training of the mind. Not to suppress, but to see. Not to deny, but to understand. Clarity is not perfection. Clarity is the light that allows you to walk through imperfection without being swallowed by it. And when you live with clarity, your choices change. You speak with more kindness. You act with more care. You listen with your full presence, not just your ears. This is not about being a saint. It is about being real, about shedding the illusions that separate you from life. Because life is not somewhere else. It is here, in the dirty dish, in the aching body, in the difficult conversation, in the silent morning. Every moment is a Dharma gate, a threshold through which wisdom can enter. But you must open it. You must notice it. This is why most people miss peace, not because it is hidden, but because they are always searching for something shinier. The mind says, this isn't enough. The culture says, you must do more. The ego says, you must be more. But the Dharma says, you are already the sky. You are already vast. Stop clinging to the clouds. Let go. Let go of the idea that your value is measured by your output. Let go of the idea that you must earn rest. Let go of the belief that peace is a reward rather than a return. Because peace is not out there. It is in the way you do everything. It is in how you walk, how you eat, how you look into someone's eyes without distraction, how you bow to life, even when it doesn't go your way. This is the training of attention, to see with the eyes of the heart, not just the mind. The heart that sees clearly knows nothing is lacking. The problem is not the moment. The problem is the lens through which we view it. A cluttered mind distorts reality. A silent mind reflects it. That is why meditation is not an escape. It is the greatest form of engagement. It is where you strip away the noise and come face to face with your own patterns, your own fears, your own tenderness. And from that seeing, something shifts. You stop judging yourself for having thoughts. You stop fearing emotions. You start relating to them with compassion. This is the miracle of mindfulness. Not that it changes the world, but that it changes your relationship to it. And from that change, everything changes. You move through life like a tree rooted in presence. Storms may come, but they do not define you. Loss may visit, but it does not steal your peace. Uncertainty may rise, but it does not rob your clarity. Why? Because your peace no longer depends on outcomes, it depends on awareness. And awareness is always available. This is the secret most people never discover. Inner peace is not about fixing, it's about waking up. Waking up from the trance of not enough. Waking up from the fantasy of control. Waking up from the lie that you must become someone else to be free. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be awake. Awake to this moment. Awake to this breath. Awake to the wonder that has always been here, waiting for your attention. That wonder is not separate from you. It is you, before the stories, before the judgments, before the noise. And the more you return to that, the more you live in peace, not as a concept, but as a way of being, a way of breathing, a way of walking, a way of loving, a way of letting go. This is what the Buddha offered, not a religion, not a dogma, but a path walked step by step, breath by breath, with courage, compassion, and clarity. And that path begins right where you are, right. The modern world worships speed. It glorifies urgency. It rewards reaction, not reflection. But what the Buddha saw, and what he invites you to see, is that awakening cannot be rushed. It arises slowly, like dawn. It blooms through deep looking, not endless doing. Most people never find peace because they are addicted to movement, to noise, to achieving. They confuse busyness with purpose. But the heart does not open under pressure. It opens in silence. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of depth. That depth is always here, underneath the surface of your thoughts, beneath the stories you tell yourself, behind the masks you wear. But to reach it, you must be willing to stop, to sit with discomfort, to feel the emptiness that you've tried to outrun, because within that emptiness is not despair, but clarity. Within that space is not nothingness, but the ground of everything. You do not need more. You need less noise between you and your own being. You need fewer filters, less pretending, more truth. Peace is not the absence of pain. It is the willingness to meet pain with a quiet heart. You cannot fight your way to peace. You must soften your way there. You must unlearn the armor you've carried, the beliefs that told you you're not enough, the habits that taught you to suppress, the fears that made you shut down. And then, gently, you begin again. You begin to listen to the body, to the breath, to the moment. You begin to notice how much tension you hold in your jaw, in your shoulders, in your chest. You begin to see how much energy goes into holding everything in. The grief, the anger, the longing. And you realize you've been bracing for life instead of living it. So you breathe. You breathe and you let go, not once, but again and again. Because letting go is not a one-time event. It is a way of walking, a way of being. Each breath out is a small surrender. Each moment of awareness is a doorway back to peace. And slowly, you begin to feel what presence really means. It is not a performance. It is not perfection. It is the quiet courage to meet this moment as it is, with all of its beauty and brokenness. And then the world begins to shift. Not because it changes, but because your eyes change. You see others not as enemies, but as fellow travelers. You see your triggers not as curses but as teachers. You see your wounds not as shame but as sacred ground. This is the alchemy of awareness. It turns pain into compassion. It turns judgment into curiosity. It turns resistance into love. The Buddha taught, hatred does not cease by hatred. Only by love does hatred cease. This is an eternal law. But how do you love in a world full of chaos? You begin with presence. You begin by listening to your own pain, deeply, patiently, until it no longer demands others pay for your unhealed wounds. You begin by showing yourself the kindness you were never given. You begin by seeing that your enemy suffers too, not to justify their actions, but to dissolve the illusion of separateness. Because peace is not passive. Peace is fierce. It is the radical refusal to become what has hurt you. It is the refusal to add more suffering into a world already aching. And it begins always inside. The war within creates the war without. The judgment you carry inward becomes the criticism you cast outward. But when you soften, the world softens. When you forgive, even in silence, something ancient begins to heal. Do not underestimate the power of your presence. One person walking in mindfulness is not a small thing. It ripples, it echoes, it changes the field. You may not see it, but your peace plants seeds in the collective. And those seeds matter. They matter more than your productivity, more than your resume, more than your image. The world does not need more perfect people. It needs more peaceful people. People who walk slowly, who breathe deeply, who know how to hold space for grief, for joy, for uncertainty. This is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. It takes great strength to be soft in a hard world, to be awake in a sleeping culture, to be grounded in a world built on distraction. So, how do you stay grounded? You practice, you return, over and over, to the breath, to the body, to the present, not because you're failing, but because you're human. And each return is an act of love. Each return is a step on the path. The path is not linear. You will forget, you will fall asleep, you will get lost. But each time you wake up again, you strengthen the muscle of awareness. You remember who you are, not your name, not your job, not your story, but your essence. And your essence is stillness. It is vast. It is free. It is untouched by praise or blame. And it is always, always waiting. Not in some distant future, but here, now, in this very breath, in this very moment. This is where peace lives. This is where you meet yourself. This is the true temple, not built from stone, but from stillness, presence, and love. To step into the temple of the present moment, you must bow, not to a statue, not to a dogma, but to reality itself. You must bow to the truth that life does not obey your expectation. You must bow to the impermanence of all things, to the fact that what you love will change, what you hate may soften, and what you fear might never come to pass. This bow is not weakness, it is reverence. Reverence for the truth that all things rise and fall. This truth, impermanence, is not something to fear. It is a doorway to peace. Most people cling. They grasp at people, at ideas, at identities, at fleeting pleasures, hoping to make them permanent. But clinging is like holding water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the faster it slips through. So peace is not found in holding on. Peace is found in letting go, not of love, but of attachment, not of responsibility, but of illusion. Let go of the belief that you are in control of everything. Let go of the belief that your worth is tied to outcomes. Let go of the belief that you need to become someone else to be loved. You are already enough. Not because of what you do, but because of what you are. A conscious being, alive, breathing, capable of awareness, capable of compassion, capable of awakening. This is your true inheritance. Not money, not status, not reputation, but the capacity to wake up, to see clearly, to live deeply. And that capacity is not reserved for monks or sages. It lives in you, right now. But you must choose it. You must choose to stop scrolling, to stop escaping, to stop numbing. You must choose to be present with the ache, the boredom, the uncertainty, because they are not punishments, they are teachers. Each discomfort is a messenger. It says, look here, pay attention, something is ready to be seen. But we cover it up with food, with noise, with endless distractions. We run from the call because we fear what it will reveal. But the call is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to free you. It is calling you back to the truth that you are not your thoughts. You are not your urges. You are not your anxiety. You are the space in which all of those things appear. And that space, that awareness, is always still, always whole, always at peace. You cannot force this realization. You cannot manufacture it with effort, but you can make yourself available to it through silence, through patience, through watching the breath again and again, until the breath begins to watch you, until the illusion of separation begins to dissolve, until you are no longer doing mindfulness, you are living from it. And when that shift occurs, everything becomes sacred. The way you tie your shoes, the way you sip your tea, the way you respond to anger, not with reaction, but with space. This is what makes the ordinary holy attention. Not the kind of attention that grasps, but the kind that honors, that bows to the present moment as the only reality that ever truly exists. Do not look for enlightenment in another world. Find it here, in the dirty floor, the aching back, the mundane task. Find it in the pause between your thoughts, in the moment you remember to soften your shoulders, in the instant you choose kindness over control. This is the field where peace grows, not in a retreat center, not in the Himalayas, but in your life as it is, not as you wish it to be. This is the radical invitation of the Buddha's teaching. Wake up, here, and if you fall asleep again, wake up again. This is the path. This is the rhythm. This is the way. There is no arrival. There is only presence. Presence is not glamorous. It is not dramatic. It does not shout, but it transforms. It turns arguments into understanding. It turns anxiety into breath. It turns restlessness into stillness. And in that stillness, you discover something deeper than emotion, something deeper than thought. You discover equanimity. Equanimity is not indifference. It is not apathy. It is the spaciousness to hold joy and sorrow without collapsing. It is the balance that sees pleasure and pain as waves, rising and falling. It is the clarity that says, this too is part of it. And from this clarity, compassion flows naturally, not because you try to be good, but because you no longer see others as separate from yourself. Their pain is your pain. Their joy is your joy. And suddenly, life is no longer about winning. It is about belonging. It is about showing up with your whole being, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. This is the true power of the Dharma. It makes you more human, not less, more tender, more real, more connected to the beating heart of the world. You stop striving to be special, and you start striving to be present. You stop needing to be right, and you start needing to be kind. This is the revolution that begins inside. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't need applause. It only needs your attention and your willingness to look inward, even when it's uncomfortable. Because peace isn't hiding. It's waiting. In the quiet, in the breath, in the space between thoughts, in the courage to sit still when every part of you wants to run. That stillness, that simplicity is your birthright. You don't need to earn it. You only need to remember it. again and again. So remember this: you are not broken, you are not behind, you are not late to your awakening. The mind may say otherwise, but the Dharma is patient. It does not punish, it does not rush, it only waits for your return. Return not to a version of yourself that is better, stronger, more healed. Return to this version, the one breathing now, the one who has stumbled, the one who has doubted, the one who still dares to listen. This is the one worthy of peace, not because of perfection, but because of presence. The Buddha never asked you to become something else. He asked you to see clearly, to see the root of your suffering, to see the illusions you defend, to see the thoughts you mistake for truth, to see the self you cling to as permanent, even though it is always shifting. He did not come to offer comfort. He came to offer freedom, and freedom is uncomfortable because it asks you to release what you've always used to define yourself. It asks you to release being the victim, release being the hero, release being the identity you built around your wounds. Not to deny your story, but to realize you are more than your story. You are not what happened to you. You are not the labels they gave you. You are the one who can observe it all and choose a new way. This is power, true power, not over others, but over your own mind. The mind that reacts can be trained to respond. The mind that panics can be trained to pause. The mind that clings can be trained to release. And when that happens, not all at once, but slowly, moment by moment, you begin to notice the spaces between, the pause before anger becomes words, the breath before fear becomes reaction, the stillness before thought becomes identity. In these spaces, something sacred opens, not because they are grand, but because they are honest. And honesty is where peace begins. Honesty about what you feel, honesty about what you fear, honesty about how much of your life has been spent running from your own reflection. But here's the miracle. The moment you stop running, you see the monster you feared is only a mirror. It doesn't bite. It waits to be embraced. And when you embrace it, the shame, the grief, the doubt, something ancient within you softens. You stop warring with yourself, and the war with the world begins to fade, because the outer world only mirrors the inner. If you carry chaos within, you will see it everywhere. But when you carry peace, peace follows you. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You carry less. You cling less. You breathe more. You listen deeper. You become the eye of the storm, calm, grounded, unmoved. Others may rage around you. Life may throw its chaos, but within, you remain clear, because you have found the center, not a place, a presence, not an escape, a return. And in this return, you remember, you don't need to chase enlightenment. You don't need to seek peace in distant lands. You only need to sit and see, to bow to the breath, to honor the moment, to live your ordinary life with extraordinary attention. And in that attention, everything becomes sacred. The dishes, the sorrow, the sunrise, the goodbye, all of it, part of the same fabric, all of it, worthy of reverence. Because when the heart opens, the world becomes holy, not perfect, but holy. And in that holiness, you no longer look for peace. You live it, you walk it, you breathe it, you become it. And that is how the Buddha walked, not above the world, but fully in it, feet on the dust, eyes open, heart free. And so can you. If you forget, return. If you fall, rise gently. If you lose the way, close your eyes and listen. The stillness is still here. It has never left. It never will. Peace is not a destination. It is the practice of remembering what you've always known, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the story. You were born free. You are still free. Now live like it. Walk slowly, breathe deeply, speak kindly, and trust the silence, because in that silence, everything returns, and you finally come home.